Picture this for a moment. You're standing in a crowded room. There's chatter everywhere, people exchanging polite small talk, gossiping about the latest trends, laughing about things that don't really matter. It's all surface level, also predictable. Now look over in the corner. There's someone standing alone, almost detached from the noise. They're lost in their own thoughts, seemingly drawn to a world far beyond the chatter and the pleasantries. Have you ever wondered why highly intelligent people often look like that person? Why they don't seem to get swept up in the swirl of social gatherings? Why they choose solitude over parties, deep contemplation over small talk? Today, we're going to dive deep into exactly that. We'll explore what the great philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer had to say about this, and we'll uncover some surprising truths about why intelligent minds so often distance themselves from social life. By the end, you might just change the way you look at your own place in the world.
Schopenhauer was one of the most influential philosophers of the 19th century. He saw things through a unique, sometimes brutally honest lens. In his eyes, most people didn't socialize out of genuine connection or true friendship. They did it just to avoid boredom. To him, social life was basically a distraction, a way to escape having to face the deeper realities of existence. That idea might sound harsh, but it makes sense when you think about it. Schopenhauer believed that those who are truly intelligent, the ones who hunger for knowledge and wisdom, naturally feel out of sync with society's shallow pursuits. But why? Why do people with high intelligence step away from the crowd? Let's break it down. Intelligence isn't just about IQ points or solving tough math problems. It's also about being able to see through illusions, question what's around you, and think deeply about life itself. And if you have that kind of mind, well, surface-level conversations start to feel empty. All that polite chatter and trivial gossip, it doesn't satisfy you. Instead, intelligent people crave something more meaningful. They want conversations with substance, ideas that challenge them, experiences that expand their understanding of the world.
Now, let's talk about solitude, a word that scares a lot of people. Many folks associate being alone with being lonely, but Schopenhauer flipped that idea on its head. He believes solitude is actually vital for personal growth. If you can be at peace with your own company, that's a sign of a strong and independent mind. Think about it. When you're alone, there's no one distracting you. You can think, reflect, learn, and create without interference. You can go deep instead of staying shallow. That's why intelligent people don't shy away from solitude. It's not that they dislike other people, it's that they value their time, their energy, and their inner world far too much to waste it on mindless socializing. Modern psychology backs this up. Studies show that people with higher intelligence tend to have lower social needs. They get fulfillment from deep thinking, creative pursuits, and intellectual challenges rather than endless rounds of superficial conversation. Where an average person might constantly look for external stimulation, parties, gossip, small talk, an intelligent person often finds enough stimulation inside their own mind. Their inner world is rich, and they draw satisfaction from it. And here's something really interesting to think about. Some of the greatest thinkers, writers, and scientists in history were known for being reclusive. People like Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, and of course, Schopenhauer himself. Their most powerful ideas didn't come from loud parties or dinner gatherings. They came from deep, sometimes even painful isolation. Alone with their thoughts, they were free to wander into unexplored mental territory, and they changed the world because of it.
But our society doesn't always get this. We live in a culture that celebrates extroversion. Being outgoing is seen as a measure of success, while being alone can get you labeled as weird, antisocial, or even arrogant. Schopenhauer would disagree. To him, Intelligent people don't avoid social life because they think they're better than everyone else. They do it because they care about their own well-being, their intellectual health, their peace of mind. And let's be honest, if you've ever felt exhausted after shallow small talk, if you've ever wanted to sneak away from a crowded party to read or reflect, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That doesn't mean you're broken or antisocial. It might just mean you're someone who values depth over distraction.
But there's a catch. While solitude is an incredible tool for growth, too much isolation can backfire. Even Schopenhauer knew that. If you shut out the world completely, you might end up stuck, disconnected from reality, unable to test your ideas or learn new perspectives. That's why balance is key. Intelligent people should aim for what I like to call selective socializing. Focus on meaningful interactions rather than obligatory ones. Prioritize quality over quantity. When you surround yourself with people who share your values, who challenge your thinking, who respect your need for space, that's where you thrive. That's how you keep growing without getting lost in the noise. We'll get even deeper into Schopenhauer's philosophy in the next section, where we'll explore why too much socializing can actually be dangerous, how solitude can become a powerful tool for self-mastery, and most importantly, what Schopenhauer believed was the ultimate secret to a fulfilling life. So stick with me, because what comes next might just change the way you see the world forever.
All right, let's keep going. So we've seen how Schopenhauer believed that social life was, for the most part, an illusion, a kind of desperate escape from boredom. And for intelligent people, that illusion is easy to see through. But what exactly makes social life so draining for them? Why do they find it so exhausting? One big reason is that highly intelligent people tend to be extremely sensitive to superficial conversations. They look past the surface. They notice the unspoken rules, the social hierarchies, the politeness that's often just a mask. Most small talk feels like a performance to them, a stage play, where people recite the same lines over and over instead of having honest, meaningful dialogue. That's why they struggle to enjoy those interactions. They want something real, something honest, and something that actually stimulates their minds. Schopenhauer pointed out that so much of social behavior is driven by vanity, people showing off, protecting their ego, or trying to look important. And let's face it, a lot of gossip, mindless entertainment, and trivial talk really does come from that place of ego. Intelligent people just aren't interested in that game. To them, it's draining. They'd rather invest their time in ideas, in reflection, in building something meaningful, anything that goes beyond what Schopenhauer saw as the illusion of social status.
But let's go even deeper. There's another reason why intelligent minds withdraw from social life: the burden of deep thought. Think about it. If your brain is constantly analyzing, questioning, dissecting reality, then everyday small talk feels like an interruption, a distraction. While others might love discussing the latest celebrity scandal or sports results, someone with a mind that hungers for philosophy, science, or existential questions simply can't connect with that. Their mind is always tuned to a different frequency, and stepping away from that to fit into small talk feels, honestly, like a waste. On top of that, there's something called intellectual loneliness, and it's very real. Highly intelligent people often have a hard time finding others who think like them, who want to explore the same questions, who can match their mental depth. It's not that they think they're superior, they're just craving a kind of conversation that's really rare. When those deep, engaging conversations are missing, socializing starts to feel pointless. So instead, they turn inward, where they connect with books, with art, with the great minds of the past. Those sources can challenge them in ways ordinary small talk simply can't. And here's another fascinating piece of the puzzle. Studies have shown that highly intelligent people actually tend to be less happy when they're forced into too much social interaction. Research published in the British Journal of Psychology, for example, found that intelligent individuals often feel less satisfied with life the more they socialize. Their happiness is rooted more in their intellectual pursuits and personal growth than in social bonding. This doesn't mean that intelligent people should never be around others. Even Schopenhauer warned about that. He believed some level of social interaction is important because it helps you learn about human nature and keeps you from completely losing touch with reality. But he made a clear point. You should be extremely selective about who you let into your circle. Focus on relationships that have substance, ones that respect your values, ones that actually feed your mind and your spirit. So here's a big question. If solitude is so powerful, why does society push us to socialize constantly? Why are we taught that being social is always better? Well, it's simple. Human civilization depends on cooperation. From the time we're kids, we're taught to be sociable, to be part of a group, to get along, to network. That's what helps society function, and honestly, for most people, that's fine.
But highly intelligent individuals see past that social conditioning. They realize that a lot of what we think of as normal social behavior is really about conforming to expectations, about seeking approval, about avoiding the discomfort of being alone. They understand the true fulfillment doesn't come from external validation. It comes from within, from self-discovery, personal growth, and pursuing something meaningful. Of course, this awareness can come with a price. When you choose solitude, people might label you as antisocial, weird, or even arrogant. But what if that's not true at all? What if solitude is actually a sign of inner strength, of independence, of having the courage to stand alone? Schopenhauer would say that's exactly the case. To him, solitude was not weakness. It was a necessary condition for anyone who wanted to escape mediocrity, to think freely, to explore the deepest truths of human existence. So what does that mean for you? If you've ever felt out of place in social situations, if you've ever wondered why small talk leaves you feeling drained instead of energized, you are not alone. And you are definitely not broken. You might just be the type of person who sees beyond the surface, who values depth over distraction.
But remember, there's a paradox here. Solitude is powerful, but complete isolation can become dangerous. You can lose touch with reality or fall into emotional stagnation. Schopenhauer recognized that even the most brilliant minds need some degree of contact with society. So the real challenge is this: how do you find the balance? How do you protect your need for solitude while staying connected enough to keep growing, to keep testing your ideas, to keep learning from the world? In the next section, we'll break down exactly how to walk that fine line, how to use solitude as a powerful tool without letting it isolate you from the richness of life. We'll explore what Schopenhauer saw as the ultimate purpose of solitude, how to build relationships that respect your values, and what the final, most profound lesson of all really is. Stick with me, because this last part might change the way you see not just solitude, but your entire approach to living. Let's dive into this final part. So far, we've seen that solitude can be a powerful tool for growth, a refuge for intelligent minds. But it comes with a danger. If you isolate yourself completely, you risk losing touch with reality. Schopenhauer understood that. He warned that while solitude is the path to wisdom,
Too much of it can lead to stagnation, arrogance, and even a kind of blindness to the human experience. So what's the answer? How can you guard your solitude but still engage with the world in a healthy way? Schopenhauer believed the key was what you might call selective engagement. Don't just throw yourself into social circles out of habit. Instead, carefully choose the people you spend time with, the ones who challenge your mind, who respect your need for quiet, and who share your values. Those kinds of relationships allow you to stay grounded in reality, to keep learning, while still protecting your inner peace. It's not about rejecting society outright, but about deciding how you want to interact with it on your terms. There's another concept here that goes even deeper: existential isolation. Even if you have good friends, even if you're surrounded by people who support you, there's still the sense that your deepest thoughts, your private inner world, can never fully be shared. That's not ordinary loneliness. It's simply the truth that no one can ever completely access your mind except you. Schopenhauer saw this as an unavoidable part of being human, especially for those who think deeply. In a way, the more you understand the world, the more you see its absurdities and contradictions, the harder it becomes to ignore them and just play along. That's why so many great minds, writers, philosophers, scientists, ended up living reclusive lives. They poured their intellectual loneliness into creative work instead, and through that, they connected with the world on a different, more meaningful level.
Think about it. Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Schopenhauer, once said, "One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." That chaos, that constant search for truth, sets you apart. It makes you a bit of an outsider, but it's also what fuels genius, what leads to ideas that change the world. And yet, here's the twist. Wisdom, no matter how profound, shouldn't stay locked away forever. Even Schopenhauer, as reclusive as he was, wrote extensively. He published his ideas, he taught through his books, and he left a legacy that inspired countless others. That tells us something powerful. The true role of intelligence isn't just to retreat into solitude forever. It's to use solitude to develop clarity, then bring that clarity back to the world in a meaningful way. So the challenge for all of us is to walk that fine line. Embrace your solitude when you need it. Dive into deep reflection, pursue meaningful goals, feed your curiosity. But don't completely disconnect. Find ways to share what you discover, whether that's through teaching, writing, art, innovation, or simply through honest conversations with those who can appreciate your depth.
Because here's the hard truth. Most people fear being alone because they don't want to face themselves. Solitude forces you to confront your own insecurities, your fears, the parts of you you'd rather ignore. That's why society pushes constant socializing. It keeps people distracted, comfortable, and safely away from those tough questions. But if you're someone who has the courage to face yourself in solitude, you're already a step ahead. You're practicing true self-mastery. You're exploring your own mind, refining your beliefs, and building a sense of independence that can never come from external validation. Still, Schopenhauer warned against using solitude as an excuse for arrogance. If you withdraw too far, you might convince yourself you're superior to everyone else, and that can be just as damaging as mindless socializing. Real wisdom means balancing solitude with experience, reflection with action, and independence with meaningful human connection. So, what's the ultimate takeaway? Here's what Schopenhauer would want you to remember. The highest form of existence is where solitude and engagement are not enemies, but partners. You don't have to choose between being a social butterfly or a total hermit. The true art of living is learning how to stand apart from the crowd when you need to protect your mind and nurture your thoughts, but also knowing when to share those thoughts, to connect, and to enrich the world around you. When you transcend the illusions of society, when you stop measuring yourself by popularity or social approval, you become free. You become the master of your own existence. That's what Schopenhauer called true fulfillment, a state where you can move through the world on your own terms, guided by your own values, never a prisoner of shallow distractions.
So, ask yourself this: what would your life look like if you stopped seeking approval? If you let go of the fear of solitude? If you focused instead on building a rich, powerful inner world? Imagine the freedom. Imagine how unstoppable you could be if you weren't worried about fitting in, about impressing people, about chasing external praise. You'd be free to think, free to create, free to live with purpose. In the end, Schopenhauer's message is simple but profound. Solitude is a gift, not a curse. When you learn to use it wisely, to grow, to reflect, to build your mind, it becomes your greatest asset. But don't forget to step back into the world, to share your insights, to test your ideas, and to connect with other minds that value truth over illusion. That is the highest level of human existence. Not living in constant social distraction, not hiding away in absolute isolation, but walking confidently between both worlds, drawing strength from solitude, and then using that strength to engage with life in a meaningful, authentic way. So, I'll leave you with one last question. What might change for you if you decided today to trust your mind, to value your solitude, and to never again be controlled by society's illusions? Because once you realize the only true fulfillment comes from within, then, and only then, the world no longer controls you. You control the world around you. Thanks for watching.